lecture about talking through stuff and, you know, what's your preference. And I know some of you, you know, only a couple of us that talk about being assaulted or things along those lines, but let's talk about some of the issues that we encounter that we've heard about, and we'll kind of work through this. All right. Yeah, I scratched my face. That's from my kid. But I scratched my face. Scene safety, so the real story. So here's the interesting thing about scene size up and scene safety was in your EMT class, we were probably taught that it's really easy to stay out of the scene that's not safe as long as you know it's not safe, right? Most of us in EMS don't intentionally put ourselves in scenes that are unsafe. We just end up in them because of the fact that we don't always know they're unsafe or the scene changes. So in the past, we've taught some pretty unrealistic and wrong ideas about scene safety. What we taught EMT students was, you know, how not to become a victim, but we're in those circumstances and it escalates. Now what are we going to do, right? Like I said, this is going to be kind of a different take or look on scene safety than you probably ever had before, except for Josh and Brian, who sat in this lecture before on my side. So the overview, are we taking it serious? We're going to talk about high-risk calls. We're going to talk about tips to protect ourselves and our partners. We're going to talk about phases of a call. We're going to talk about a now what factor and kind of the self-defense side of things. Real basic level. I'm not going to teach you, you know, actual self-defense and anything like that. Then we're going to talk about training programs that are out there if you want to go above and beyond what you've been trained in your agency. Since I'm sure you all had formalized self-defense, personal safety training in your agency, right? Right. So there'll be some training programs. I'll give you some recommendations and kind of go through that. So here's the first one, which is kind of like, are we taking it serious? So here's what we're finding. It seems like we're hearing about this more and more often, right? Law enforcement, EMS, fire departments getting assaulted on calls, right? Paramedic loses baby after patient assaults her, right? Kicks her in the stomach. Interesting thing in this case, and we looked it up, is they tried to charge the guy with murder, and since he didn't know she was pregnant, it's not murder, right? That's kind of interesting. Paramedic assaulted after an unsuccessful CPR save or resuscitation, right? Assaulted by family, right? Man charged with assault of an EMT. Investigators say he started fighting with it and eventually spit blood all over the EMT, right? Investigators believe the gunman set a trap for firefighters who responded. And at the end of this, I'll let you listen to the radio traffic from this, right? Because it's one of the most like bone-chilling, goosebumps-causing radio traffic you'll ever hear, okay? The biggest dangers we face, okay? The dangerous individual themselves, right? Excited delirium, right? Which we kind of talked about. Crowds and civil unrest, okay? The event of like a bombing, right? And then obviously the shots fired where we could be the target or we just happen to be there. So what do you think? Do you think we're taking this serious? Do you think that our agencies that you work for are taking our chance of being assaulted seriously? What do you think?
They say they do.
They say they do, and what do you mean?
Well, of course they're going to say they are doing everything that they can, but are they necessarily? Or if you get a call of a naked guy going crazy, are the cops there first to help you out?
So I like that. They say they are, but really are they? What else?
Are they giving you the training to prepare yourself?
Yeah, there's the idea. Are they providing any training to help us? Now the problem is what they think of, in my opinion, this isn't like a fact, but if I say, hey, I'd like some training to protect myself, what they hear is, I want to get trained so I can fight somebody. No, right? I'm still going to be very defensive. Verbal judo is still my #1 priority. I just want to know when that doesn't work, or they start assaulting me, what can I do to protect myself? Okay? How much training does your department provide? How many of you are taking an OTEP on scene safety about you getting assaulted? I've taken lots of scene safety OTEPs on BSI and bloodborne pathogens. There's freaking 8 hours of that boring stuff, right? But what about, like, God forbid someone attacks you? What can you legally do? Can you legally defend yourself, right? There's none of that training, right? We're going to talk about how you're presenting yourself to your patient. We're going to talk about pretty in-depth. Okay? What would you call high risk? What are some calls that you know that are just high risk calls? What do you think? Psych patients, drunk people at the bar, drunk people in the home, domestic violence. We hear from law enforcement that's their worst nightmare, right? What'd you say? Concerts, right? Everyone's there having a good time. They all love EMS a lot, so much they want to hit you. What else? Just regular assaults, fights, right? What about your dispatch to a big event, not even a concert, right? A legal protest, a political protest, right? Are you not representing by being in your uniform most likely whatever they're contesting, right? You are the government. You're wearing it. You're like, time out, wait a second, right? Last time I checked, my boss's name is Bob. It's not the president, so settle down, right? But you represent what they are usually fighting, right? So just by being there, and the other one is, I can't remember if it's in here or not, I think I took it out, is our uniforms. I used to love when EMS wore pretty white uniforms. Now, first of all, that's the dumbest color to ever put people that get dirty and bloody in. But what's great about the color white? You look nothing like a police officer. Now, you get a nice, cool dress blue uniform, and you put a little name plate on it, you put some patches on your shoulder, and you put your rapid, quick release trauma scissors on your belt, and you throw a badge that says EMS or firefighter on your shirt, and that psych patient, the second you walk in the door, who are you? You are a police officer. Everyone hates them. Right? That's the downfall. We're even perceiving ourselves incorrectly. Not intentionally, but incorrectly. More high-risk calls. Gunshot wounds and stabbing calls. Them are not my favorite. Unknown problem. Right? I can't figure that out. Wait a second. You've been on the phone with them for 35 seconds and you got nothing? Right? Unknown problem. What does that mean? I don't get it. It would really be nice if you give me just a little bit more than that. Okay? To me, that sounds like a trap. They couldn't think of anything good to say, so they just said, I need help. Right? Garbage in, garbage out. Roadways. Right? This is kind of safety. Now, what's interesting is, do we get training on roadways? Positioning your apparatus, putting cones, flares, blocking highways, some places. Well, that's a safety issue. That's scene safety that most agents supposed to teach you how to get my car. But learning that since I was 3 years old. Okay? Still won't listen. Awareness. Okay? This is that piece that you probably won't hear in most classes. I'm huge on this awareness thing. Right? Because I really feel like EMTs have this really poor misconception that everyone loves us. Right? We like to doop-de-doop in the door, like skipping, like we're here to help you. And we don't pay attention. We don't look behind doors. Right? We don't pay attention to the agitated guy in the corner who's not even the patient, who looks pissed off that you're even there. And you're like, hey, Grandma, who's this guy over here clenching his fist at me? Oh, that's my grandson. You gotta take your grandson to take a step outside? Not let's take a step outside, but he needs to take a step outside. Okay? We're gonna talk about what are you carrying into the scene with you. We're gonna talk about working your way out of bad situations. We're gonna talk about situational awareness. Okay? We're going to talk about alternate or always look for an exit, right? This one is always located an alternate exit than what you entered, but let's get real. We're probably going to walk through the same door that we came in, okay? We're going to talk about not standing directly in front of a door. I love the EMS that walks up, stands right in the center of the door and knocks. 911, we're here to help you. How about you stand off to the side in case some present comes out the door, right? Use a little barking dog. We don't go past you to a chance like, oh my God. Right? We're going to talk about contact and cover, what's called the assessment L. Okay? So protecting us. Here's what's interesting. So there is this idea of searching or not searching. Now, let's talk about weapons first. Okay? Study in 2000 42% of providers reported searching patients for weapons. That's a pretty high percentage. 62% found them. 27 of them have found more than 5 weapons in their career. 80% reported their weapon findings to law enforcement. So here's my thought with that. That probably means 20% of them were pocket knives and crap that you're not going to tell the cop about because who cares? But it's the 80% that you find the gun or something that was alarming enough you're like, holy shit, this guy's got a gun. Okay? 13% consider their training to be received in the area accurate. I wish I worked for one of those agencies. Okay? So think about that. So do we have the right to search people for weapons?
You can do it as part of your initial prayer.
Yeah. Like DCAP, BTLS. And the last one is W. Perform institutions, abrasions, puncture, penetrations, burn, tetanus, lacerations, swelling, and weapons. Right? What if you find a pocket knife? You're going through, you're patting down, and you find a knife. Who cares, right? Does it belong in your ambulance? Not really. Hey, can we leave this here in your house? Can we leave this here in your car? Right? I mean, if it's a machete strapped to his leg, can we unstrap that thing off your leg and just leave it here? You paranoid freak. Right? You find the gun. And I'm not going to tell you if you find the gun, what are you going to do? That's case by case. Can you, okay, so you can't search that weapon, that's against the law. Can you ask them? Got any weapons? Sure you can. What if they say no, and then you find the gun during your assessment? It's your gun. You never had it first. A whole box full of guns in the front of your ambulance. Case by case. Do you say, hey, wait a second, I thought you said you didn't have a gun. Do you take the gun out? Do you hold the gun? Like, there's all kinds of pieces there. Okay, and we can't really tell you if that's going to be case by case. We're going to come back to weapons here in just a second. Approach and position. Here's my disclaimer. Okay, I Googled dirty ass house in Google. If this is your house, I'm sorry. I didn't know that. I just picked it at random. Okay, I got a couple pictures of houses coming up. I'm sorry if it's your house. Get them made. Okay, so let's say you get called to this house for an unknown medical problem. Any dangers? Besides hepatitis?
Debris.
What's that?
Debris around the yard, they might trip over.
Yeah, lots of debris for us to follow her because we're super graceful people.
Not sure
I'll
who's
stand
looking
by
at
the
it.
law enforcement shows it.
Yeah, find out the code. I don't know what's going on there. What'd you say, Nan?
I'll stand by till law enforcement shows it.
But so here's the downfall, right? Maybe in your area, my area, I'm going to say, can I get law enforcement? They're going to go, for what? I got a bad feeling. Okay, they'll be there in a couple of days. Right? I have to have a legitimate reason. We see a threat. Is there any threats here?
No.
Not really. I mean, there is, like in our head, right? So you're gonna like knock on the door and be like, fire department, right? You're gonna be like, listen, I forgot my gloves. You knock on the door, I'll be right back. Like peer from behind the ambulance. How's it going? Is he still there? Right? Don't worry, I'm here in case you need help. I'll drive and go get it. Okay? So there's debris. What about the idea that they can see a lot of you, but you can't see a lot of them? Right? I don't like this whole thing just makes me uncomfortable. That roof looks like it's going to fall down. It's being held up by Legos. Okay? So let's go through 2 scenarios, and then full like scenario, really short. 19-year-old female calls for an assist after a fall. You arrive to find this. You hear a parachute moaning for help. Your partner heads into the door to help. You gonna follow him? Why not? 92-year-old lady, the door's open. You can like hear her, Jake. She's right there, man.
Could be somebody else.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Paranoid weirdo like I am. Anybody going in the door? How many have gone in this door? Nobody? No one wants to do that? I walked in those doors. No big deal. Yeah, all right. 92-year-old lady. This is 94-year-old lady. Same exact call. You show up. Your partner heads into the door. What do you think? You're going to follow him? Judgmental people. If you followed him in this one, you sure better follow him in that one. But the good news is, we didn't follow him with this one. Right? First off, how did she fall and then open the door and then go fall down again? Right? Like, well, that doesn't make any sense. It was nice of her. But lay on the floor, it's okay, we'll come help you in a second. Right? Think about those things. And EMS providers, we're super dumb. Right? We would just walk right in, no big deal. Right? You can like hear the dueling banjo music in the house and you just walk right in. I'm here to help you. Right? This one, good position. I like it. Any red flags? Is it a lockbox? The hell? Have they been visited by someone before that didn't have a key? Right? Looks like the door's been kicked in once or twice. Right? Now here's what I like. We got our drug box. That's cool. Is it heavy? Is it a lot of fun to carry? Is it a weapon? It can be. We got this flashlight in the middle of broad daylight. I'm not really sure what that's for, except for it's a really good weapon. But we're like ready to go on the radio, right? He's like, it's gonna happen. I know it's coming. Right? But decent position, decent thought process, right? I like that. Let's see here. You and your partner are a team, and teams do huddle and plan, right? We see that on sports events all the time. So have a plan of action, right? Those of you that work on ambulance or fire trucks, how much time is wasted on the way to a call talking about the dumbest things? Tones go off like driving the call, we're like, we're going for dinner later, right? Tomorrow's Valentine's Day, what are you getting the wife? Nothing, we got to stop at the gas station on the way home, right? What should you be talking about? Take a few minutes. What's the call? What do we think this is? Hey, what's the game plan? Right? If things go wrong, who's going to run faster? Right? Have a best case scenario, have a worst case scenario, and plan for them both. Right? And then you can go back to talking about dumb, boring stuff that really doesn't mean anything. When the call's all over, what can you be talking about? Because usually it's like, holy crap, that was stressful. What's for dinner? Right? Like 8.5 hours ago. All right, so what's for lunch? Right? What are some things you can be talking about after the call?
What you did different?
What worked? What would you do different?
Smart.
Yeah, that sucked. How do we never ever do that ever again? Right? What about like on the PTSD side? Hey, we good? Right? It was a bad call. Child abuse, neglect, bad trauma, dead person, suicide, whatever. Hey, are we good? And then you know what's a really good idea? Right then, I'm dead serious, right then, pull out your cell phone and make yourself a reminder. And in 3 days, if you haven't seen your partner since then, call them. Hey, you still good? Because shit doesn't bother us right now. You got to go home and go to bed and really coulda, woulda, shoulda disease yourself, literally to the point where you're freaking nuts. And what's going to happen if you don't put it in your phone? You're going to forget about it. Because guess what? Maybe it doesn't bother you. So 3 days goes by, and you're like, no big deal, right? Day 4, you're supposed to work with your partner. He calls in sick. Well, he must have got sick, right? And then when he comes back from sickness, he's not quite the same. Would you even have linked it possibly to that one call? Nope. But you call him 3 days later, and the 4th day he calls in sick after he's like, you know what, man? I feel like I haven't slept. And he calls in sick. Well, that's easy. There's your trigger. Let's have a chat. Let's go have coffee. Does that make sense? Those are the things we've got to do to help each other out. Okay? Contact and cover on all calls. We're going to talk about that. Make sure one or both of you have a working radio. Right? That's really important. Now, here's the downfall with both of you having radios, and I've been on this call. Me and Josh are partners, and things kind of start to get weird, not between me and Josh, but like on the scene. Right? So I look at Josh looks at me, and I kind of give him the, maybe you should go call law enforcement. So Josh is like, hey, I forgot my gloves in the ambulance. I got to go get them. He walks outside and he gets on the radio. Dispatch, we're requesting law enforcement. Well, you're like, oh, shit. You're trying to turn your partner's like, is that my, or your patient's like, is that my address? And you're like, nope, he's getting gloves. So am I. Right? If you have that communication with your partner, when they step outside, reach down, turn down your radio. Right? Don't announce it to the whole house that you just called the police. Okay? Evaluate each other after the incident, which we kind of already talked about. Phases of a call. First thing first, dispatch. Right? What can dispatchers tell you besides all the wrong information?
What somebody told them.
What somebody told them. What else?
Location.
Location.
Can't tell you that.
Not necessarily, right? They might say, hey, just heard on the scanner, city fire just wanted to wreck an I-90, you might want to reroute.
We had one a couple weeks ago that said it was officer awareness.
Say again? Like, I don't, what do you mean?
Well, they've had problems in the.
Okay, like it's flagged,
Right.
right? What else? What about the information dispatch gives you? A housing development you've been to before? An apartment complex that's known for drugs, alcohol, gangs, prostitution, whatever. A neighborhood that you're like, that's not really a neighborhood we're really supposed to go into unless we have law enforcement. Right? Don't assume anything. Who has your back? What can you assume? Who has your back? Oh, you so. Can you assume your partner does? If you work really good with that partner. If you talked about this, but if you haven't, nope. Like law enforcement. Wait a second, I called law enforcement, they're here to protect me. Or if it's domestic violence, they're there for investigation. Right? They're there for bad guys. Arriving on scene. Right? Parking your vehicle. If you're an ambulance, you should back your vehicle into that scene. If anyone's leaving in a hurry, it's probably going to be you. Okay? Think about access and egress. Did you get yourself into a room that only has one exit? It's really weird. All of a sudden, that patient has blocked your exit. That makes me really, really uncomfortable. I'm a super paranoid person. That individual's like they're talking and they're moving around the room and you kind of notice they're starting to block the door and they square up to you. You're like, all right, mission accepted. Okay? What are your senses telling you? Let's not forget that whole gut feeling thing. Right? Ever walked in the house and just got that god-awful feeling like something's going to go wrong? And it does, and you're like, that's weird. We knew it was coming. Or I really hate when something goes wrong. I got to fight with a patient one time, assaulted me. We start wrestling, we get done. We're in the back of the ambulance, and my partner goes, man, I had a bad feeling about that. I was like, thanks for telling me. Like, I didn't have a bad feeling. You clearly saw something I did, but next time you're like, hey, I got a bad feeling about this one. Okay? Let somebody know. What's that? Yeah. Avoid standing, this one's kind of hard. Avoid standing directly in front of windows. That one's really, really hard. But doors, absolutely. If you're going to stand directly in front of a door that opens towards you, why don't you put 1 foot behind you and lean slightly forward so that door flies open, it catches you in the foot and not the back of your head. Right? The door just flies open, down you go. It may not be on purpose. Okay? Look for obvious things, and we're going to talk about weapons and so on. Don't forget about animals, they're crazy. Scene size up. So let's talk about like the tactical approach. And tactical is kind of an overly used word, mostly because it's like, you know, sexy and everyone sees it and like, yeah, we're tactical. We're not talking like that kind of tactical. Okay? We're just talking about just changing the way that we're perceiving ourselves and the way that other people perceive us. Does that make sense? Self-awareness. Recognize your own actions, your own posture, your own stance, your own hand positions, and your own gestures. Take a look at you and know what could be used as a weapon that you're carrying either for you or against you. Right? Most of us carry pocket knives. What's your pocket knife for? Open up like McDonald's packages, right? Gas station hot dog, too thick to chew, you gotta cut it up. Right? But think about what happens if that patient gets it. What happens if they want to use it against you? There's one of the ideas of what if we armed EMS? Well, now you've provided a gun for every scene you walk into. Right? That could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. Okay? We're not going to get into that argument. Patient awareness. Okay? What's interesting is one of the textbooks we used to teach from said if you get in an altercation in someone's house, hide. Wait a second, you're in their home. Don't you think they know of all the hiding places? Right? Like you probably played hide and seek there at least once or twice. I know where you're hiding. How about leave? Right? Situational awareness, we're going to talk about a lot. Environmental awareness, who's there, what's within reaching distance of a patient, what are the risks, what are the hazards, things along those lines, okay? The only true safe scene is the one that you walked away from, okay? When you're walking into a house, take a radio, okay? We're going to talk about approaching the patient here in a second. We're going to kind of work through some of that when the PowerPoint's over. So let's talk about the now what, right? This is that something's gone wrong. Now we're really screwed. We're yelling on the radio, right? Now I know you're supposed to, like, you know, push to talk button, wait 1 second, take a nice deep breath, and then very calmly, coolly, and collected, let them know that you are currently being assaulted, right? What are some important things to start yelling on that radio? Unit number, unit location. What is the problem? Okay? Now, this is actually taking from radio traffic. We're in a situation where we have an armed person, and he's requesting certain utilities to be turned back on, says the firefighter. He is armed, and we are in the room with him. These individuals were held at gunpoint by an individual who wanted his utilities turned back. My first thing is like, listen, I don't work for a Vista. I have nothing to do with the Vista. I can't make the Vista turn your power bill back on. Right? Like, think about that. And the radio traffic sounds just like nice, cool, calm, and collected. Hey, we got a problem here. Houston. Especially, like, who the hell is Houston? What about reasonable force? Could you use it? Absolutely. Right? Restraints. Physical restraints. Chemical restraints. Just enough force, right? This is what's important. To subdue the person. When the attack stops, the force stops. If it doesn't, guess what? You become the bad guy. Okay? Think about that. All right, I must have saved the reasonable force video for the end. There's a really good reasonable force video I'm going to show you. Talk about that here in a second. So, assessment of patients. We're going to talk about the assessment L here in just a second. We're going to talk about keeping your hands above your waist. Be aware of your posture. How many of us get really easily distracted by patients? Anybody ever been distracted or had a patient distract your partner? So easy. They just suck you into their story and you're just like arms deep, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, we're in a bad circumstance. Okay? So here's the body position. So this is a person standing, right? So they're standing up. Now obviously you're not approaching them from the drone side of things, but we're going to walk up to this person. Now there's 3 positions here. We're going to call this front position. This one we never belong in, right? So let's just stay out of there. We'll talk about why here in a second. We got position 1, position 2, and position 3 being that 45-degree angle from the back. Now, on the medical care side, what's the best position of 1, 2, or 3 that we belong in? Medical care. Probably 1. Now, safety-wise, is it the best position for us? Not really. Where's the best position safety-wise? 3. Now, here's the downfall. Yeah, in the ambulance. The downfall is we got to kind of like, okay, so let's find a happy medium and call it position 2. Why don't we belong here? Why not? What's that? You're in that confrontal position. Why else? Could they punch you pretty easy? Sure.
More control on the side.
More control on the side, right? A lot less hands-on from the side than if we're coming on front side like that. What about this guy? He's just like looking at, you know, animal shapes in the clouds. So we got position 1 at the head, position 2, position 3, and position 4. Medically, where's the best place for you? 1. Safety-wise. Yeah, 1. So that's a great thing. Guess what? That's where you belong. Where do you never belong? Yeah. Down here. Okay? So let's take a look at this guy. You get dispatched for a man down in a park. We're going to see. I've never done this presentation for refresher, so let's see how you guys handle this one. And I'll tell you how the EMT do it here in a second. So you respond to a man down. We're all standing right here. We're literally 10 feet away. So what is this going to sound like? Do you want to start taking care of this guy? What are you going to do? Get his attention. Hey, guy sleeping on the bench, homeless man, wake up. He doesn't answer.
You move around to the top of his head, or you a little closer.
Okay, so you could go to the top of the head and kind of look around, then what?
Right, same thing, verbal stimuli.
So person, hey, the guy with a knit beanie on his head on the park bench, wake up. No answer. Now what?
I still don't have to go behind the bench.
You can't, there's bushes. Sorry.
Stuff on floor, sleeping on floor away.
What's that?
Grab this pillow and stuff.
Grab by the arm and pull him off the bench.
bench.
You're a horrible human being. Hey, where do you work for again? Don't say it when we record. So you could pull the pillow up underneath his head. What else could you do? Or eventually, are you going to have to like physically touch this guy to get his attention? Clearly. My EMT student's like, get a stick. I'm like, stop. Stop thinking right now. I'm going to do it. What with a stick? Right in the eyeball. Wake up. Right? So if this guy's got his hands in his coat, does he have any weapons?
Oh, no.
Maybe. Right? So here's the downfall. This can go kind of bad real quick. Now, if he doesn't have weapons, you wake him up and he startles. Right? I'm not going to, let's assume he's homeless. Not because of the picture, but let's just say he's homeless. Right? Homeless guy sleeping in a park bench. He gets woken up. He might be just like ready to like, someone's robbing him, someone's going to hurt him. So he might act out at you not even knowing who you are. So be aware of that. So my thought is, what's your name again? Jesse, don't put your hands up after they were. Okay? Kind of the same approach. Jesse's got kind of the same look this guy has, right? So what you could do, Jesse. One of the things you can do is you can go up, right? You've tried that verbal stimuli, nothing's working, and you're like, hey man, you go up, put your hands on the patient, immediately start checking for a pulse. Right? Checking a pulse. That's my job. I'm not relax. It's okay. Right? If he decides he wants to get crazy, you can just be like, listen, we're not here to hurt you. We are here to help you. Right? But immediately you gain control of an arm, and you're in a really good position. Elbows locked, right? And you've got a lot of, he swings, it's pretty easy to be like, listen, we're sorry, right? We got called, someone called because you're unconscious. You're not unconscious anymore, we're out of here. We're not here to hurt you. We're not here to fight you. Relax, sit down. Don't make me punch you, right? Think about those things. What about this guy? Outside of a revolver downtown Spokane. I don't know what it actually is. It looks like it, though, doesn't it? Looks like a Friday night at Gonzaga.
Do the same thing, try to talk to him.
Try to talk to him. Hey, drunk man on the sidewalk, wake up. Right? Is this an issue? Because you really can't come from the head. You really can't come from this side. You really can't come, you're kind of stuck from this one side. Right? The downfall is you've got to roll him over. And when you roll him over, you are the most vulnerable. Right? So kind of pre-plan for that stuff. What about this guy?
Remove the weapon.
Yeah, get rid of the bottles and your sandal. This is great. I'm just sleeping. What about this guy? What are some red flags? Shouldn't drink so much coffee. What is he doing? Your stomach hurt? What about that? That's kind of weird. Like she's waiting for you to help and then she's going to finish the job. Hear the motor revving. Oh, God. Right? But this guy. This cat has got to be dangerous. Looks pissed. Right? During your routine question, this 14-year-old daughter, you just asked, any chance you could be pregnant? He's like, you're going to die. Right? I believe. See you, bye. But that's right. Look good. Everybody's actively engaged in treating the patient, including your police officer. Everyone's heads down. Nobody's paying attention. Nobody. Now, let's just say this is a cardiac arrest. Cool. We all should be engaged, except for Johnny Law Enforcement is like, hey, can you do us a favor and start getting some of these weird lifeguards, get them away, back them up. About this one. Love this one. It's great pediatric care right there. Middle of the road. What's the problem with that picture? You are literally squatting over a patient who at any point really could give you just a little reminder of why you don't stand over patients.
Except he looks little enough, he probably can't do a lot of harm.
Says the female in the room, okay? Listen, my 3-year-old has inflicted enough damage, right? The other one that one of my other students in the last, I think it was 2 EMT classes ago, maybe it was the summer class, that recognizes what happens if that oxygen bottle falls over and hits that poor little kid in the face? I was like, good point, right? Like I didn't even think about that. Like, oh, well, touche. Okay? So let's talk about body position, right? And what's interesting is, like I said, I kind of know what your our thoughts are of like, wait a second, how is this really that big a deal? It needs to be, right? It really does. So we're going to walk in the room. This is our patient, and you can tell by the they're not red, sorry, the medical cross on their head. These are all medical providers. Okay? Now, this is typical. This guy calls 911. We got 4 people in the room. We all just like stand there awkwardly. And then it's like, this guy asks a question, this guy takes a pulse, this guy takes a blood pressure, this guy asks a question, this guy asks a question, and this guy's taking a pulse, this guy. And the patients are like, what are we doing here? Now, on a regular medical call, that would be okay. On a psych patient, you're just going to just poke the bear and fuel the fire. So let's change it up a little bit. One of the ideas, this isn't my idea, the assessment L is taught by a program called DT for EMS, and it stands for Defense Tactics for EMS. The guy's name is Kip, and he's from the East Coast, and he teaches defense tactics for EMS providers. And one of the things he teaches is what's called the assessment L. And the idea is take your patient, put the person in front of them at a distance, and have that person be your primary patient contact person. All your questions, all your directions, all your vitals, or all your instruction, everything comes from that one person in front. What's the side person's job?
Watching.
Vitals, right? You're close with, we're going to get to watching here in a second. Take vitals, right? Now, here's what this does. Bob here decides he wants to hurt somebody. Well, here's the downfall. Now he has to pick the guy in the front, guy to the side. He goes for the guy in the front. What does the guy on the side do? Protects his buddy. He turns to go for the guy to his side, guy in the front protects his buddy. Right? What's the problem with this? He can get 3 of you in one punch. Right? And you'll probably fall over each other in an attempt to take somebody down. Right? I worked in a casino up north a couple of years ago when I was a security guard. We had a guy that got kind of hands with one of the blackjack dealers. And so we were standing on either side of him, and he was walking kind of in front of us, and he reached for the butt of one of the slot attendants as she walked by. And both of us sprung into action and literally ran into each other, fell to the ground, and then he fell on top of us. It was like, well, that didn't work the way we quite anticipated. Right? Like, that's what's going to happen here. And trust me, we're both on the ground going, oh, no, we're on the bottom. Now, what about you start adding people into this? Right? What is this guy going to do? What do you think? Is he a good note taker? Sure, because this guy shouldn't be looking down. Right? Think about dash cam footage we see of law enforcement guys getting shot on the highway. Flashlight in a hand, clipboard in the other, and they're looking down. That guy can do whatever he wants in that car. Boom. Things change. So this guy pays attention. This guy writes stuff down. What's the 4th guy doing? Right? Make him your lookout. Turn him around. Watch the scene. Maybe family's there. Why don't you go talk to family? How many of you have ever done assessments with a patient while family with another person's talking right next to you? And you're like trying to write stuff down and you're hearing like 9 things. Get them away from you just a little bit. Okay? 2 things. 1, I don't agree with the picture on the right. I get the point it's trying to make, but you shouldn't still be there. Right? The whole time you're like, listen, man, put the knife down. What the hell with you? I'm leaving. Right? Stab yourself. Now, the picture on the left is a really good look. This is perfect. Guy's got his hands above his waist. His hands are not in his pocket. He's got his back to the doorway. He's got his back to the stairwell. And our patient has got this black thing on his left-hand side that you really can't see what it is. Right? That's a problem. Good body position, poor room assessment. Okay? Equipment that you can use to protect yourself, God forbid, your monitor. Right? It's a really expensive weapon. $16,000 you're going to throw at your patient. Your boss will not appreciate that. Okay? Trauma kit. Medical box. Now, when it says ambulance, I don't mean run your patient down with your ambulance. What I mean is use it as a shield. Okay? Use it as what it's meant to, and that's drive away. And all the stuff we're talking about, your first step always is, we're the biggest pansies in all of EMS, we run away. Law enforcement run towards danger, firefighters run to burning buildings, and we run towards like buy one, get one free hot dogs from Tip Trip. Okay? Drive away as fast as we can. So let's talk about the guy who takes a punch at you, right? Most people who are going to swing, especially in EMS, what's their intention with that one swing? Knock you out. It's the haymaker, right? It's not this little short jab, because that doesn't do anything except piss you off. They want to get this big, giant swing and take you out. Now, here's the good news. If you can stay conscious for that one punch, you've got it made, right? Because you get hit once, I'm out. To hell with you. Guess what? 2-year felony. Enjoy jail. Right? But the downfall with your hands in your pockets, you're not going to survive the first punch. Right? You got to be ready. So the first thing first is both your hands go up like this. Right? Now, why not? Ryan, you want to come here for a second? Go ahead and stand like the guy in the black. Okay? I want to, so we don't get blinded. Right? Now, if I'm talking, he does that. How come I don't want to go, hey man, what are you doing? Why not? You're egging him on? What about law enforcement who comes out of the corner and goes, wait a second, who's the good guy? Right? Now, if I come up here and go, hey, wait a second. Now, the picture's kind of bad because this guy like hangs like right here. Right? Realistically, it's going to be like, hey man, wait a second. But he's going to walk towards you and you're just going to keep your, hey man, wait a second. Now, when he makes the swing, very slowly. Very slowly.
Remember that test you graded back?
Yeah. What you're going to do is one hand's going to come up here and one hand's going to come up here, right? And you're just going to take that blow right here. Now it's real easy. Boom. And then your hands are off. Hey, hey, hey. I'm not here to hurt you. Right? You're like, how'd that feel? Right? I'm going to use it here in a second. Okay. Makes sense? So hands go up. Hands protect your face. Take the punch. Now, what's interesting, the hardest part you have to do is when he takes the swing and you put your hands out in front of you, what you don't want to do is lean back. You actually want to take a step forward, right? Because if you lean back, you just gave him that much more swing. You step forward and you catch his arm right here. That puts you in a perfect spot to go, wham. And then immediately, sorry, my bad, right? Your nose is bleeding. You okay? Blood pressure issue maybe? Right? And you document thoroughly. I'm standing there, he attacked me. It's like I gave him oxygen with just the tank. I didn't have a non-rebreather, so I just administered some oxygen at the end of my oxygen tank. So let's talk about reasonable force, and then we're going to do a couple of exercises just for fun. So this doesn't have any audio, which is really frustrating. What we're looking at is this is in Portland, and I'm not sure what the initial call was. This was actually from the court case. So you got the initial call here over on the left-hand side. The guy walking at the door is verbally abusive. So he says something, and then he decides he's not done talking. So he's going to come back. Now, watch how the EMS providers all start to change. Now, here he comes. Baldy's like, you want a piece of this? You know Baldy, I'm sorry. Right? Now, we've taken one person away from patient care. Now starts this altercation. Now watch. They're going to yell back and forth. Now no one's taking care of the patient. Look. Remember how I said if you're going to go hands-on, do it. Get him to the freaking ground, right? So they horse around, and this guy's going to go to the ground. Finally. Okay? Goodness sakes, put him on the ground. Now watch. Portland Fire guy. Uh-oh. 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 Now watch this. Now he's going to go start fighting somebody else. Look at that. Belly's like, listen, did you see him kick that guy? You want a piece of him?
In the meantime, our patient's laying down on the couch.
Nobody is helping our initial call. Look at him, this guy's still like, you want a piece of this? My goodness. Right? Did you notice the law enforcement guy just kind of mosey in the room? He's the guy handcuffing the guy at the head. He just walked in like, oh, this looks bad. Didn't say anything, didn't really do anything. Right? Reasonable? What do you think? I hate to be the person who really doesn't know the whole story. I don't know what was said, but I'm going to say I'm kind of on the side of the patient. Right? Now, in this case, I don't know what that guy said. I've been roped into those, right? Guy says something, you're like, dude, shut your mouth. And you initially want to get in that altercation. It ain't worth it. Right? Just be like, listen, if you can't keep your mouth closed, you can leave, or I'm leaving. Right? We'll just pack up and leave. It's no big deal. We don't have to be here. Right? Those are all things to kind of think about. Now he's like, radio. For dispatch, we just kicked this guy in the legs. All right, so let's talk about your ability to perform tasks, right? So first thing first is things like task orientation. The things to do like BDM, CPR. Would you agree it's a complex skill that requires lots of attention? What do you think? Right? You got to squeeze the bag, every 5 to 6 seconds, about 500 mLs, and you got all this crap on your head. Would you agree that then if it's so complex, you shouldn't be doing more than just this one thing? If I tell you you're in charge of BBM, I'm not going to say, hey, Jason, you're in charge of BBM and surveying the scene. Make sense? Now, if you're not engaged in a task, then your job is to pay attention. That doesn't mean like looking at your partner going, you're doing a good job on chin compressions, right? That means like watch the scene. Did someone come in that shouldn't be there? Did someone leave and you're not sure where they went? Okay? Practice your front door survey, right? Practice looking around. Practice looking at things. Do you recognize weird things, right? My favorite thing is tell people to start doing this every time you go to the grocery store. That's a good place to start. Every time you go to the grocery store, I want you to practice a scene survey. Before you walk down an aisle, just real quick, like peek that out. How many people are in there? 4. All right. Right? Do you really think you can shove your big shopping cart down that aisle with 4 other people? No, then pick a different lane, Costco. Right? Like things like that. When you look at people's body positions, right? Do they look angry? I do this in the casino. You ever played the game where you walk through a crowd of people and look at someone and point someone out, you and a friend, and go, that guy. And you have to think of a story of what that guy does for a living. Super fun at the casino. It's really easy. Drug addict, gambler, drug addict, right? But look at their body position. Look at their clothing. You ever done that? Judge someone by their clothing, right? Guy walks in, you're like, man, you're disgustingly dirty. I'll bet you he's a mechanic. You look at their hands under their fingernails and it hasn't looked like they've been cleaned since they were born. Mechanic, right? Your clothes are covered in paint. Artist or painter, I don't know, right? Look at those things and then do it when you go on your scenes. Right? Take a look around. Take a look at the house. Take a look at those things and practice those. New EMS providers, so the couple of you that are fairly new EMS providers think that hesitation will be interpreted as uncertainty, so they begin patient care without hesitation. No. Hesitation is okay. Stop for a half a second. Let the whole scene flood into your body and then be like, what is that smell? Right? Try to stop for a second once on scene, let your senses take in the whole picture. Ask yourself, does it fit? Everything fit in this picture? Right? Why are there 11 cars in the driveway and you're only talking to one person in that entire house? Where's everybody else? Well, in Stevens County, there is nobody else. 11 of the cars don't run. Okay? Sorry, Jay. Consider if you need more resources. When you're done with something, like BVM, CPR, reorientate yourself to the scene. Okay? Take a look around. Use natural pauses. You ask a patient a question, they're thinking of an answer, like their medication list. Take a look around real quick. No big deal. If you're in charge, act like it. How many have a hard time taking charge? Anybody? I do. Sometimes, don't look like that. Right? Scene leadership. Does that mean boss people around? No, I said leadership, not scene bossing. Okay? Delegation. That's not bossing. Hey, you take blood pressure. Hey, you grab airway. Right? There's respect in that. Huge part of being a leader is looking out for a team. It's okay in training to talk about scene safety as being everyone's job, but really, your safety is your job. Every EMS provider on that scene is thinking about they are the #1 priority. That's okay. If everyone did that, no one would get hurt. Right? If you're a leader, put down the equipment. You shouldn't be taking a blood pressure. You shouldn't be taking a glucose. You should be writing stuff down, surveying the scene, and controlling your scene. Okay? What others are doing? Two sides to this. One, Texas legislator wants medics to carry guns. The bill would allow EMS in counties with fewer than 5,000 people to carry guns. The other big piece of this was if law enforcement was low ratio, like if there was a low number of officers per population, they were saying that EMS would be allowed to carry guns. And what they said was, it wasn't like they're passing guns out to EMTs. It was, if you are allowed to carry a gun in the state because you're a concealed carry arm holder, you could carry it on duty. It wasn't like we're handing guns out to you. Right? Now the downfall of that is depending on the state, like let's say Washington State. What do you have to have in Washington State to get a concealed carry firearm permit? A pulse. There's no training. Right? Unlike Idaho, or there was like 51 or 31 states or whatever it is that you know get to the class and qualify and stuff. Washington's now one of those. You got a pulse, you got a clean record, you're over the age of 21, you want to pay the $90? Gun's yours. Right? That's your right. The question was, could we carry it on shift or not? Ohio bill would give some medics the right to bear arms, and the idea became the SWAT medics, which was a team that was designed to respond to active shooters. It was medical personnel carrying firearms. The flip side to this, and this DT4 EMS, he's not anti-gun, and I don't even think he's even came out and said he's anti-EMS guns. He's just more, why don't we provide you with more training that you can realistically use on every call to protect yourself? And his training programs are awesome. I'm trying to really find a way to be able to go to one of them because he brings people in fight suits. You physically have to fight people in his class. They attack you while doing your assessments, and you have to defend yourself. And what's crazy is he's got all kinds of YouTube videos of these little itty-bitty EMTs and medics, these girls, and watching them physically take on a full-grown man and win. And it's like, holy crap, that's huge. Too bad we can't teach that in the EMT class. Right? Awareness. Awareness is taught and needs to be used on every single call. Okay? You have to learn awareness. You're not born with it, I promise. Be aware of what you have on you that can be used against you. The only true scene safe scene is the one you see in the rearview mirror. Have a game plan, okay? And contact and cover. Okay? Questions? Okay? So let's look at a couple of things. Let's stop this real quick.
We want to do a sharpshooters now?
Share the-